King of Huns, Scourge of God, a barbarian who brought empires to their knees. But what do you think you know about Attila the Hun? It's all a lie. In this video, we'll get into Attila's twisted life and unexpected facets to reveal a warrior king's human side. So stick around to discover some shocking yet unimaginable facts about the king's personality. Attila the Hun wasn't born with an axe in hand like a video game. He was from a family of nomads who lived on the big, grassy plains like horses do. He was born around 406 CE in a place called Pannonia, which is now the Balkans. Attila's dad, Munzuk, was a powerful leader among the Huns. Their life was all about horses, hunting, and the freedom of the open road. They weren't angels, these Huns. They raided their neighbors, traded with cunning smiles, and fought like wolves when needed. Like Genghis Khan, Attila also changed his name, but we don't really know his original one because not many records of the Hunnic language exist. Some smart people think Attila might mean little father, kind of like the movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler. When it comes to what Attila looked like, there aren't many details, but some say Attila was short, had a big head, small eyes, and a thin beard, with streaks of grey, a bit like the axe guy from Lord of the Rings. His brother Bleda was his shadow, his partner in crime, and by the time Attila was a teenager they were already feared warriors. Imagine two teenagers on war horses, eyes glinting with mischief, leading raids on villages, collecting gold like shiny pebbles. Attila's family was kind of new in Europe's scene. They came from a place near modern-day Kazakhstan and moved to the Roman Empire around 370 CE. They moved around, crossed rivers like the Volga, took over places from the Alans, and clashed with the Goths between some mountains and the Danube River. These guys on horses were extremely good at archery, and other tribes just couldn't handle them. It was pretty chaotic. Lots of people were running away from the Huns and heading into the Roman Empire. The Goths, for example, were first like, "Hey, Romans, we're cool." But then they turned rebellious and even defeated Emperor Valens in a big fight called the Battle of Adrianople in 378. After that, loads of other groups like the Vandals, Alans, Suebi, and Burgundians said, "We're out of here," and invaded Roman Gaul in 406 to escape the Huns. The Roman Empire was split into two parts in 395. One gang hung out in Ravenna, while the other was in Constantinople. The rulers, called emperors, were mostly from a family named Theodosian when Attila was growing up. The Huns were a mixed bunch of people under one king. Some joined the Hun gang, but lots of others kept their own ways, even though they kind of followed the Hun king's lead. Then, in 434 AD, something changed. Attila's father, Munzuk, breathed his last, and Attila and Bleda became kings of a vast empire, from the Danube River to the Ural Mountains, bigger than any playground you've ever seen. Now, these two teenage boys, suddenly kings of nations, ruled from fancy tents instead of wagons, their war cries echoing across endless plains. But Attila wasn't just a big, mean bully. He was smart, even charming. He spoke languages like Latin and Gothic, traded favors with Roman emperors like Theodosius II, and made friends with other tribes like the Ostrogoths. He was a horse-riding diplomat, a warrior king with a silver tongue and a cunning smile. Attila led raids into the Eastern Roman Empire, sacking cities like Marcianopolis and knocking at the gates of Constantinople. He even crossed the Danube twice, pushing into the Balkans, and making Roman emperors like Valentinian III cough up buckets of gold just to keep him at bay. After some victories against the Eastern Roman Empire, Bleda mysteriously disappeared from the history books. There's talk that Attila might have had something to do with it, but there are different stories about how Bleda vanished. Some say he died in combat, had a hunting accident, or, crashed his motorcycle on the Devil's Curve. But no matter what story you believe, Attila became the big boss of the Huns in 445. In 447, Attila went south into the Eastern Roman Empire through a place called Mysia. The Roman army, led by Arnegisclus, tried to stop him in a big battle at the Utus, but sadly they lost. Still, they gave Attila a tough time, making him face some heavy losses. The Huns were free to do as they pleased and went wild in the Balkans, going to Thermopylae. Then, in 450, Attila returned to the Western Roman Empire, thinking there was a marriage proposal waiting for him. It all started when he received a letter from Emperor Valentinian III's sister, Honoria. asking for help to escape her arranged marriage. She even sent her engagement ring along with the message, but Attila, being a bit off the mark, took it as a marriage proposal. He demanded half of the Western Roman Empire as his dowry. Valentinian wasn't too thrilled about this and forced Honoria to marry her original Roman fiancé. But Attila wasn't fazed and continued his journey towards Rome. He also teamed up with Emperor Valentinian III. He was friends with the Western Roman Empire and a cool general named Flavius Aetus. Aetus had spent some time among the Huns back in 433 and got a fancy title as Magister Militum in the west, thanks to Attila's troops helping against the Goths and Bagaudae. Gesseric, a guy who didn't like the Visigoths, also played a part in Attila's plan. Fast forward to 452, Attila's back to claim his lady, Honoria, and Italy faced his wrath. People fled to small islands in what would later become Venice to escape the chaos caused by these attacks. Attila's army went crazy, wrecking cities and destroying Aquileia. Aetius couldn't fight back hard, but slowed Attila's march with a small group of soldiers. Attila finally stopped near the River Po. Some say diseases and food shortages in Attila's camp slowed things down and might have even stopped the invasion. Emperor Valentinian III sent big shots, like Gennadius Avenius, Trigetius, and even the Bishop of Rome, Leo I, to chat with Attila at Mincio, close to Mantua. They made Attila promise to leave Italy and make peace with the emperor. Now, Italy had already been in a bad state with a big famine in 451, and Attila's invasion in 452 just made things worse. There wasn't much for Attila to gain by going to Rome, so he decided to call it quits and head back home. What type of emperor was Attila? He had a reputation for treating conquered people fairly, unlike some emperors who preferred burning cities to building bridges. He also had a side of a brutal conqueror, a shrewd diplomat, a tolerant leader, and a man battling his own inner demons. He allowed religious freedom, even welcoming Christians alongside pagans in his court. We can say that he was a medieval Robin Hood, stealing from the rich, Romans, and giving to the poor, his allies. It is also rumored that Attila had a legendary sword. They say Attila had this epic sword known by various names, like the Sword of God, the Sword of Mars, or simply the Sword of Attila. You'd imagine it was kept next to other important stuff like the chair of Attila, the television of Attila, or maybe even the cup of noodles of Attila. There's a sword displayed in a Vienna museum that was believed to be Attila's. However, experts think it's a fake made much later than Attila's time, probably in the 9th or 10th century. His personal life was a bit wilder than his diplomatic savvy. He had multiple wives, including the mysterious Ildico, who died on their wedding night, sparking rumors of poisoning and jealous rivals. He also suffered from bouts of rage and unpredictable mood swings, possibly due to an unknown medical condition like narcolepsy. By 453, there wasn't much left to conquer, and the Eastern Roman Emperor stopped paying tribute to Attila. Attila's world fell apart with nothing left to conquer and no gold flowing in. Then, mysteriously, Attila suddenly passed away. The story goes that he partied hard at his wedding, had a bit too much food and drink, and poof, the next morning he was found lifeless due to a stroke. Or so says Priscus, who wasn't exactly Attila's best bud. What do you think of Attila the Hun? Let us know in the comments section to keep the conversation rolling, and check out our channel for more such interesting videos.